The Gyan series brought to you by Ad Club. First of all, like to thank Hindu, our precious host and sponsors, and I welcome our revered guest speaker. To give a small introduction about him, I would call upon Mr. Jaganan Ramaswamy, please.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I have a piece of paper and I have instructions that I have to follow this piece of paper. Otherwise, I think I can tell you much more interesting things about Mr. Ram Sehgal. I'll tell you why that also a little later. Thank you. Well, Mr. Sehgal is a veteran in the advertising industry in India. His career spans almost 4 decades. And he was brought up in the spiritual institution Sri Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry. He started his career with Air India, and he worked for about 5 years there. And after getting a degree in journalism from Regent Institute, London, and a degree in advertising from the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, London, he started his career, advertising career, in S.H. Benson, which is now O&M. Then he moved to JWT and within 6 years became the manager of the Thompson office in New Delhi. In those days, manager was the god of a branch, for those of you who haven't gone through that stage. He was appointed the president of contract advertising, which was a subsidiary of JWT. And in his 15 years at Contract, he was instrumental in molding the agency into one of the finest agencies in the country. I can say that with inside knowledge. Under his aegis, Contract consistently produced superlative creative work that helped build many successful brands and also won the agency many creative awards. For his contribution to the advertising industry, Ram Sehgal was conferred the A&M Advertising Man of the Year in 1964, and the Advertising Club Kolkata elected him to their Hall of Fame in 2001. He has served as the president of AAA Savai for 2 years and was also the chairman of ASCII. He now lives in Puducherry. He teaches mass communication at the Bharatidasan College for Women. He's quite a big author. His first 2 books, Mixed Feelings and 9 Secrets of Advertising, are aimed at new entrants into the profession. His third book is about travels around the world and is called Around the World in 40 Years. And his latest book is called What's Cooking. He contributes regularly to various newspapers on a variety of subjects. Recently, the Tourism Ministry of Pondicherry has been consulting with him for marketing strategy and advertising plan. He is also on the board of Planet Road, a USAID educational initiative for the needy students. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is all about him. But let me tell you one small bit I want to add. I've had the fortune and the honor to have had him as my boss, though it was not for a very long period. And prior to that, he was a colleague of mine. That was in JWT. He was my boss in Contract. And one thing I can tell you, he was one of the finest bosses I've seen. So here's Ram Sehgal for you.
I always prefer to introduce myself.
Ram, just one sec before you start. Come, let's do the honors. Let's just welcome you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I always prefer to, because all other introduction sounds like obituary column. I would rather that wait till it is over. This is the subject I have chosen to speak today, the changing face of the Indian marketing and communication industry. Why I selected changing of the industry? Because as a nation and as people, we don't observe change and realize much later after it is over. So we are part of the change, we move with the change, but we do not recognize change. And that creates some problems or adjustments to the new environment in which you are moving. So that is the purpose I chose this. So what am I planning to do in this session? Looking at the world of marketing and communication today and the journey it has traveled in comparison to the past. So the structure is basically talk about the Indian consumer, the evolution of the organization, and the revolution in marketing and advertising trends and media. I think those of you, and I'm talking to the girls, who have joined workforce in the last 20 years, you won't understand the word India emerging from hibernation. Because at that time, our growth was called the Hindu rate of growth of 2.5%, population growing at 2.5%, we were standstill. But if you look at the emerging hibernation, I'm not admitting that hibernation is over. We are still going to be hibernating, maybe for a couple of years. So it's not to mislead you to think that gold is going to happen. When you look at increasing buoyancy in durables or cars or homes and cellular services, let me tell you that if you lived in the 60s and you were born in then, and I was quite grown up in the 60s, of course I don't intend to disclose my age, but the fact is that there were 2 scooters and 2 cars. Lambretta was a bad scooter, so everyone wanted Bajaj. So if my father thought I needed a scooter, as soon as I am born, he will do 2 things, register me in a school and register me for Bajaj, because it will take around 20 years to get it. There are 2 cars, Ambassador and Fiat. Ambassador, again, you could get it the same day because it was a bad car, and Fiat you had to wait. So you can today, at the last count, I'm told there are over 400 models of cars of different price segments. Before you had to chase a car, now 10 or 15 manufacturers are chasing you. So I think overall the business confidence is indexing is rising, which is where we have shown the thing. Dynamic political thing I'm talking about is because in 1993, where the first beginning happened, the change happened, when all these license rules went, we went in a couple of years to 9% plus. It's just unfortunate that we became a part of this economic downtrend that started in the world in 2008. Even at that rate, today we are, in spite of all these problems, we are still growing over 5.5%, which is more than double than of what is happening in Portugal, Spain, France. I've just been to these countries and come back 2 weeks ago. I cannot tell you what their economy is, in complete shambles. So what is happening is, because of this change, the shortening replacement cycle is upgrading very fast. Before you had an ambassador, and I remember this in 1982, we had the Asian Advertising Congress in Delhi, and David Ogilvy, the guru, had come. And because I was posted in Delhi as a manager, my job was to take him to a cocktail party that was being hosted by Beecham's, was one of his clients. He stood out, we were waiting for his Mercedes-Benz to come, and he looked at this ambassador car. He said, "Is this the car that lasts for 40 years? I said, "Yes." "No wonder your economy is in a shambles." Today that is not the case. If you ask the banks today, which I was doing, what is the cycle in which they come for bank loan, re-bank loan, is 3 years. They're changing their cars in 3 years. So that is the hibernation that I'm talking about, which you people won't even recognize. And therefore, we are a market in transition. I'm insisting on this thing because we are still in the stage of hibernation. We haven't moved forward. Just because we hit 9%, it does not mean that next week we'll hit 9%. It's going to take time. But there are many things that are working in favor. The shift in the mindset. That's the biggest thing that has happened in change, is the shift in the mind. We believe in ourselves. A third world country with a first world mind. Indians are proving it all walks of life. I can tell you this. 15 years ago, maybe 10 years, I was in Hong Kong and my wife and I walked into a watch store. She wanted to buy a watch for her brother. The guy didn't even look at us. He just ignored while there was nobody else in the shop. Then he saw suddenly my wife wearing a Omega watch. He turned around and showed 30 watches. Today, you don't have to tell him you have arrived. He ignores everybody when an Indian walks in. So change has happened where the world is beginning to recognize that the change that has taken place in us. I think we don't realize this, as I said, we don't recognize change, but the dramatic change is from the old value systems that we have, and today we have gone into indulgence overnight. If you go to the malls, you go to eating places, you look at anything else, we have moved very far away from our conservative parents. Look at the aspirations that is happening at every town in this country. I can give an example how India has used technology so well. When I was in Bombay, every Sunday I used to jog and Marine Drive. And one day when I was coming back, I saw a beggar woman sitting outside the temple making telephone calls on the mobile phone. So I was completely shattered. So I stopped and asked the taxi driver, what is she doing? Sir, she's running a big business. What business? She lives in the beggars colony. She has put beggars all over town and she's directing them on mobile phone where the traffic is moving. When we started handling the Airtel business, they took me to a village in Haryana because I had gone in a Delhi meeting. And they took me to a shop on a Sunday, which was a vegetable shop. So I said, what the hell are you taking me for vegetable shop? No, just wait here, you'll see. Lots of Sardar children are in Canada. The parents cannot afford to make phone calls. So what was this guy doing? He was taking farmers' vegetable credit in a card with this much weight of tomato, 3 minutes. So they were paying him through vegetables that they were growing. So underlying the thing, improving all these categories of people today, they want to improve the quality of their life. No matter at which level they are, which category of town, which income. I give an example. I was just telling some of my friends. I teach at Bharati Dasan College. It's a central government college for ladies. And I have 60 students there. Looking at them, I would thought that they were all belonging to the same economic classification because they wore the same kind of silver kameez, same kind of clothes, etc. I'm on the governing body. In one of the meetings, the principal said, do you know the profile of your students? I said, no, I can't go and ask girls, tell me your profile. So she said that 80% of those girls, father was daily wage laborer. The day he worked, he got money. The family used to eat once a day so that the children do not have any differences within the 20% which was well-to-do as against 80%. So to clothe them, they would sacrifice the food. And then I found that I was trying to get them jobs, get people, and I realized that moment they get that graduation certificate and the thing, they got married. So I asked these girls, what the hell is going on? I mean, no sir, my parents will pay less dowry if they have an educated daughter-in-law, because in the community it will be looked up. See, there's a lady is educated. So popular sentiment is nothing beyond my reach, helped by youthfulness of the economy. Today, a young person, if you read your papers, you will see how many people who are in corporate life over years have become entrepreneurs. They're moving towards entrepreneurship because they have level of confidence that they can build a business. India is young. India is the youngest country in the world. And that's our future consumers. And believe me, these are the actual figures I've got from, they are growing richer. Before, to get an apartment to buy, the parents will be thinking while they are 58, that now we must be looking for a place to stay when we retire. Today they have apartments at the age of 30. Between husband and wife, whatever is the EMI of 30,000 rupees a month in a flat 2-bedroom apartment in Bombay, they own it within 3 years or 4 years of working. Whereas we had to work a lifetime to own an apartment. We don't recognize this because it's happening so rapidly around us that we don't observe how things are moving in the speed in which they're moving. And what do they, look at the things they do. This target group that amazes me all the time. That what do they think? What do they want? How will they transform India? I think the rape case in Delhi is a warning call for the politicians. Look at the millions of young people that gathered and stayed all day, all night to protest. They are awake. While they are indulging, they have other activities, they have possessions, they have also not forgotten to see the social fabric of India. And that is our hope. That's our future. Not those who are older than that. So, there is a distinct shift from the values that what I called Ram value, that's not my values, it's God Ram's, which is honesty, responsibility, hard work, sacrifice, sincerity, patience. If you look at your father and your grandfather, these were their values. And they were to teach us, this is what you should do, and be honest in your job, be sincere. This is what I've been hearing since childhood. Today is intelligence, is creativity, is innovation, is quick thinking, is risk-taking, willing to bend rules. We have an agency business, most of people of my generation have spent in the same agency 30 years. My friends now, in 30 months they're gone. They're on the move. So they're impatient, they have ambition, they have the intelligence, they have the creativity, and they want to move forward. And nothing will stop them because they have energy, and the incomes are coming their way now. And the youthfulness values, if you ask any consumer durable person, he'll tell you that the people below 30 are buying consumer durables. 10 years before, there's no way that a 30-year-old man will be seen in buying refrigerator. His father would have to buy him. So they are having fun, and yet they're working very hard. It's a strange phenomenon. In our times, we worked hard, we never had any fun. Yes, Jagannath? Today, these guys are working hard and having fun. Because it's entrepreneurship, youth feel. Today, they are so confident they can do what they want to do. They can achieve what they want to do. They think, they have creativity, imagination, experimentation. None of these things are close to them. And the youth also do active enjoyment. So I will cover 12 emerging trends manifesting across our society. Success and achievement. I don't read news, I make it. How many young people read news and care a damn about what is happening? They are so busy making their own lives, their own career. If you look at the readership, it's constantly dropping because there are other things to do. They don't have to worry about anything else. And this is reflected in all of the schools across today, that at 30, they're ready to start their own business. I think they are not trends, but the parents are extremely tense. When they find that the guy is not taking a job at 29 and starting his own business, they get nervous breakdown. Also, again, against the wrong value of materialism, how many times we have been told in our life, don't waste money, don't waste money. That is the parents' view of what money should be used and how it should be wasted. Today, let them try. No way. So the fact is that they have always wanting to do things today. The shop, like for example, there is a thing I saw in Ogilvy on one of the girls' table which says, when going gets tough, go shopping. This is exactly what's happening. So you find that a 19 to 21-year-old girl has a credit card. Not postpaid, prepaid credit card. So now she has learned to text more and talk less so that she can text for a longer time. So the whole arena of technology, and I want to go to a younger age. There was an 8-year-old boy in Singapore. I was invited for dinner. So he had got his iPhone and he was doing tickling and looking at downloading thing. And his mother calls him and says, tell your brother to come down for dinner. He continued, didn't do anything. So the mother got angry, shouted out, I told you, no, I've sent him text, he's coming down. And the mother didn't know where to hide her face. So I told her, I said, listen, today parents have to learn, not the children. The children are ahead. So parents have to learn that how your children are going to deal with technology. Same boy, 8 years old, my daughter had also bought the iPhone, and she's a managing director of PNB Paribas in Asia, and she went to this 8-year-old guy, said, how do you do this feature? So he says that, shows the feature, moves away doing his work. She tried, she couldn't, so she came back to him saying, no, I've told you once again, I don't have time to tell you second time. So you're dealing with it's a bomb you're dealing with. I mean, they sit in my wife had gone for a checkup, we were sitting in a hospital, there was an 8-year-old girl who's unknown to the 7-year-old boy. The girl had this thing, so iPad, so he moves there and they're playing games, and he's teaching her how to play. So parents didn't have to worry. Parents were doing their work while these guys are playing with the iPad. So I think we are living in a different world. We are living in a different world because, as I said, when you talk about shopping today, look at the number of malls that have come up. Before, to get one single object, you had to go around looking in a town to find it. And you would not, most of the time, won't find it. So we guys went through a tough time. Those guys are having fun. Nothing was easily available. I told you about cars and motorcycles. It applies to the clothes, it applies. Today, every single multinational brand that you want to buy, you can buy it in India. And you can buy it in the top 10 towns. You don't have to buy anything outside. That's the reason why custom doesn't even stop you. They know that you're not bringing any rubbish, spending euros. The look at, the technology absorption in India has gone to all levels. My maid, cook, has an ATM card. So when my wife started paying her salary, I said, no, madam, now I've got a bank account, you transfer directly. So my wife now has to make sure that she transfers, because she says send it directly. In the morning, I go to give the garbage back. That lady who's collecting on right hand, left hand, she has a mobile phone. She's talking to somebody. So it's a dramatic thing that is happening to us. This is the young person who told me playing safe is a waste of oxygen, which I think is right. No use wasting your breath. What you want to do, get going. So there is switching jobs, startups, all kinds of adventure sports. They are doing everything that is possible to fill a day. I'm my ID. They are technical, they have everything that require in the gizmos So what they are saying is, my background is old, but today I am the new person. Meaning, I come from a conservative parents, conservative families, conservative thing, but now I am not anymore conservative. Look at the career choices that today you have. For example, where are the days that they can't fill medical colleges, they cannot fill engineering colleges, but they are filling up design companies, design courses, all other courses that is happening. Yes, women have started getting into, thank God, into architecture in a big way. But look at, the other day I was reading that 20,000 doctors around the country have not applied. They don't want to do medicine anymore. They find it boring. They're moving on with something else. And the interesting thing, which is phenomenal in major cities, and I can swear I have seen this, is that if you go at 4 in the morning in Siddhi Nivak, when just now the Ganesh Puja happened, the crowd line will be all below 20 or 22 of girls. And the night they will be in discotheque. They are living a fuller life, the richer life. I can tell there's an examination on, because all the girls and boys go to temples. It's a balancing act. They have found their own formula. They have found their own measure of living life. So they line up at 4 in the morning to get entry to the temple, to pay their homage to Ganesh, and they will be probably dancing till 4 in the morning. So today, young people don't want to be left alone. They'll want to be doing something or the other all the time. They want a full day. So it's like saying, I'm going to live till 18, till I die. Because they are behaving at 18 that as if they have used a full life around, with a lot of energy that they are doing that. So it's like visiting nightclubs, they are into entertainments, they are into conferences. So I was in Bombay recently, and my daughter, who works in advertising, went for 3 days seminar of Cadbury's. She went at 9 and came at 11 o'clock at night. And next 2 days, she was in a discotheque. So she is wiping out her tiredness, getting tired in a different way. And this is the trend I was talking about that makes me proud of the young people, that they are standing up. And as you go along, let me tell you that more of them will stand up and they will become a force. Today their force is being neglected, nobody takes them seriously. I don't think that anyone has taken seriously the note of what the girls did around the country on Nirbhaya rape. I don't think. But when I've talked to these people, I've seen their feeling, their passion. They spent all day and half the night without eating anything, those girls. I was in Delhi just to watch this. It was so greatly determination to fight this society's ills. So I think they are standing up. And the more ridiculous the country's situation gets, the more volatile they'll become. And that is the force I'm saying is going to take us forward. That's why I started by saying it is the youth that will take the country forward. And I must say this for the young people. If any subject they are in, they really work very hard. Because in Bharatiya Darshan College, if I get them projects, they would spend nights going on internet, downloading a lot of material. In the process, when they make the presentation, it makes great sense. Because they have a passion for learning, and they want to convert that passion into earning money as well. So it's a drive, it's a holistic drive. It's not singular element of it at all. It's also not any different than what is happening in the lower strata. We just ignored them. But I'll tell you that, 6, 8 months ago, we were coming to Chennai, and we have a place near Tindivaram. We broke for coffee, my wife and I. And my wife was telling the guy in Tamil, the young guy, must be 17, 18 years old, that I want less sugar. He said in English, madam, I'll give you separate coffee, milk and sugar. You can make it to your taste. I was dashed. So when he came to serve, I said, son, what do you do? He said, my father is a farmer. He has been able to manage to give me a cycle. After work, I'm wanting to pay NIT computer course I'm doing so that I can. So I said, what will you become? What do you want to be? Bill Gates. This is what he said. Bill Gates. A village in Tindivanam roadside, he says only coffee, and the guy wants to be Bill Gates. So the aspiration level is not only at the top level or with medium income or high income, it's penetrating down, which is the hope. That the younger people are waking up to making something out of life rather than giving up. I think not to overplay the contribution that is made by media, but media certainly is playing a role in broadening this and influencing them by different patterns of life and different stories. They may not be doing in a systematic way, but certainly in the lower income groups and in lower population strata, what Bombay sees or Chennai sees, they see as well, which was not happening before. So they are exposed to the society in totality, the rich to poor, and that's certainly affecting them. Because I can see from those girls I talked to you about Villanur in Pondicherry, the kind of silver kameez they're buying, it's obviously designed, it's a cheaper variety, but the designs are all reflected on what they see in cinema. I mean, if you look at the totality of the C-class towns that we are talking about, so much entrepreneurship. Somebody asked a question that which is the biggest employer in India? Which is the greatest employer in India? Can somebody say? The streets of the city. It's the streets of the cities. You walk across, I have traveled extensively in India. More than half employment and business. I give an example. In Nariman Point, which are all the offices in Bombay, now normally many of the people come from Pune, they travel for 2 hours, so they leave at 5 in the morning. So this guy has a cart very close to our office on the road, and he would be making sandwiches to serve in the morning, a snack in the afternoon, and a snack when they're going back those 2 hours journey. So it was one man, and today it's a shop where there's 6 people or 7 people working. And believe me, at 6:30 in the morning, Britannia van delivers bread to him there. And then what has he done? He has hired all these boys and he has given them mobile phone. And he has told all the offices, call these numbers and they will deliver whatever you want. And he's paying them a portion of what they deliver as salary. So the faster you work, the quicker you work, the more service you will get the money. And he's now running a shop of making sandwiches. So the entrepreneurship is in our blood because there are not so many jobs to feed everybody. A small country has the advantage that everyone can get jobs. But a big country like us, and same with China. I mean, it is a pity that in Beijing, lots of street shops were there. Thanks to this World Olympics, they banished all of them, sent them to villages, they are starving. Otherwise, they were making all kinds of things on the road. So streets in big countries, large countries like ours, self-employment. They use their creativity, they find a business and they run it. And they run it efficiently. Calcutta, there is a panwala, this is outside your Park Hotel. They can't enter and exit from there because he has already owned the land at the exit of that building, which was broken down later, where he runs a pan. And it's an assembly line. He has a whole lot of people working. So it starts with this leaf, then it goes on to this, and then it's delivered to the guys there. So the owner of Park Hotel called him and said, how much money do you want to give me this place. He says, how much money will you give me to buy your, how much money you want for your hotel? This is what he said. I remember that in Bombay, corner next opposite temple, there is this pan shop which does, I mean, people from any part of the city will come to eat there. Fantastic pan he makes, charges now 10 rupees or 12 rupees. Now, Tarachand ji, a friend of mine who was a film producer, and he used to send him to his office, he used to go every day after lunch to give him the pan. So one day he said, Saab, I live very far in Bombay, Marine Drive. He said, Marine Drive ke nazdik agar, if there's a place that you can buy apartment near Marine Drive, I'll be grateful. So Tarachand said, this panwala, he wants to buy an apartment in Marine Drive. So he said, how much money? He said, well, sir, I'm a poor man. Say 6, 7 crores. He has done for 40 years. So it's amazing country. We don't see that into depth, but the fact is, it's extremely entrepreneurial country. This happens in rural market as well. I tell you, if you visit rural market, you will see that what used to be sold loose as commodity now is packaged. They will not buy any loose tea nor any loose. You can ask the tea manufacturers, they will tell you they won't buy any loose tea nor loose oil because of the fear of adulteration. So that much consciousness has come through what they see and what they hear about adulteration, that they are moving in commodity to brands, dependence on retailer to their own judgment of what to buy. They will talk to each other to find out which is the shop to buy, what to buy, rather than believe on the cheap talk this retailer gives. Similarly, cheap goods to affordable quality. Today they are bringing an equation between what is cheap and what is affordable quality. That means something that will last longer. And they value additional money to take care of that quality. So, and not so choosy to seeking variety. If you go even to small shops, you see they are overpiled because now people are looking for variety. Satyavati Shapachi is a friend of mine who's a very famous designer, Mukherjee. He was telling me, I'm getting fed up. I said, what happened? He says, these girls don't want to wear one design more than 1 year. Now, whole bloody night I have to work to give them different designs. So it's a completely on the move. Before it, design would last for 2-3 years. Now it's 1 year is gone. Now we are not shy at all on spending money on ourselves. Not at all, none of them. Clothes, cosmetics, shoes, shampoo. Look at if there were not certain buyers, so many shampoos and so many soaps and so many creams would have been not manufactured. Look at the television set and see the number of products that are women's products that are coming out. Huge number by different companies, different product categories. Huge, huge market. Because now I notice they are using everything a makeup person would use. So it's an everyday manifestation that they want to move forward and fulfill their aspirations. Of course, the underlying factor is between the dream and reality lies a shadow. Balancing act between aspiration and alienation. This is one learning this we have to have for them. Ultimately it has to be a balancing act between the dream and reality and what they can actually achieve. Then look at what is happening, evolution of the organization. The good old days are already covered, limited choice. Now if you come today, margins were driven by company policy. Everyone towed the same lines and didn't complain because there are fixed margin structures among companies of one type of business, and so nobody had to worry about it. You just had to sell the amount that you agreed and you get paid for it. Consumers didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice. It's only the last 10, 12 years, my God, you go to a mall, you've got same fellow selling 10 different types of things. So Then there were no blogs, no reviews, no social media. I think the government is cursing social media now officially because it's shaking them up. So technology wasn't there, and what technology has done is a miracle. And then the blink of an eye, overnight, dramatic change has happened. It's so different. Now we are in rise of trade. And most marketing people, senior marketing people believe that 76% believe they are not realizing full revenue potential. Now that's the tragedy part of it, because my take from the fact of the way they are calculating their margins is ultimately affecting the consumer today. Because they are not doing a balancing act between volume, pricing strategy, and the benefits they want to make. Since the airlines started their business in the world, the food was always free. Free, not really, because that was included in the fare. Today they are taking the same whatever fare there is and they are asking to pay for food. Meridian Hotel in Paris has just announced, I don't know whether they'll do it elsewhere, they have stopped room service in the hotels. Reason? People very rarely use room service, and we have a whole battery of people, cookers, etc. We want to save expenses. You have aeroplanes where the staff that is put as crew is half of what it used to be. Every nook and corner, anywhere you look at, the consumer is paying a price for it. Latest, HSBC has said that for every withdrawal you do, physical withdrawal, they'll charge you 50 rupees. And Standard Chartered has said that any call you want to make to a service person, you'll have to pay 50 rupees. You know, when you call and you get somebody saying, I'll put you on to a customer relationship person, now you have to pay 50 rupees. So every which way you look at it, they're taking it out of the consumer. And the other side, of course, is that loyalty programs they're talking about. I don't understand what loyalty they're talking about, because every action is showing least interest in the consumer needs in every aspect of it. I give you an example. I was reading the other day that Rolls-Royce has a target of selling 75 Rolls-Royce in Ahmedabad in the next 12 months. So the first fellow bought it for 6.5 crores and it packed up in 2 weeks. Something happened. So he went to the dealer. Dealer said that no, you'll have to talk to London. London said we will settle it amicably for the next model, because this is a little older model. You pay another 1.5 crores, we'll get a delivery. Rolls-Royce. So everywhere where the economy is facing, which is true everywhere, everyone is cutting corners at the cost of the consumer. And yet they are running the loyalty programs. I give an example. I had a bad experience with the airline which I not mentioned, so I put it on their card, whatever that feedback sent immediately. By the time you get off the aeroplane, your email is already there saying, please fill this form out here. So I just said that it was an awful thing, etc. And the reply I get is, thank you for appreciating and being a loyal customer. I think this is why I think that pricing, they are making it a strategic tool to improve their profitability, but certainly happening at the cost of the consumer. So what is happening is that there used to be uniform pricing. Today you are not sure if you go to a car dealer, he is offering you free insurance, 25,000 rupees. Out of which, actually the insurance company is giving him 12,000 back. But the renewal that you will make for the next year on your own is 25,000. And I found this out having bought the new Volkswagen. And when I wrote to them, they immediately changed the whole thing, saying, no, the second year also we'll give you. So this is the thing that they're having, and they're talking about customer relationship. And I think the dynamics of doing business change, there is an explosion of competition, which is what is scaring all these businesses today. They are scared out of their minds. And today technology cannot be a savior because it is so easy for everyone to adopt the technology from anywhere. I remember in 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I attended, no, it was a little longer, I attended a conference in Seoul, advertising agency, the Asian Advertising Congress, and the Nokia guy was talking about, it must be a few years ago, he's saying that in next few months, we'll be able to photograph, you'll be able to do this, you'll do that. Came on 4 feet, 8 inches man on the stage, nobody could stop him. He said, here, I've got it. And he started showing the features. So the fact is that today, the technology moves so fast that nobody can say, I have the technology, before you know somebody else also has the technology. And they were supposed to be leaders. So I think it has become competitive across. Technology is a ruler. I think this is what my view is, that entrepreneurs have won. They are innovators, they are inventors, they are service focused, they are customer focused, they are differentiated, they are agile. And the rest of them, and I don't want to mention names, but there are a lot of companies that have shut down which are there for over 70, 80 years. There's a whole list of them. I don't want to bring the list. But the difference is that those were people who had done businesses for 70, 80 years, they are very comfortable, they ruled the world, they had no competition, nobody had a choice except them. And then they lived in that cloud, and here people come and take over. It's happened in almost all businesses. Many businesses in Bombay, in Delhi have closed down. The owners, we don't know where they have gone. But the other thing that worries me is that because the pace of change, the organization is becoming more and more complex. Instead of simplifying to make sure things happen properly, they are getting more and more complex. So there are, I mean, if you look at the number of teams they bring in for marketing function alone, where now there is a specialist of digital, there is a specialist in television medium, there is a specialist in sales, in marketing, then by town classification. You know, the whole hierarchy of 40, 50 people, but in marketing were 5 people or 6 people. They are making this whole complex thing, and ultimately who is paying for it? The consumer is. Now they have, before they used to do research companies, now they have their own consumer insights thing, and they are using different technology to find out what is happening first themselves. So we were just discussing that the advertising agency is left to draw pictures. Beyond that is all gone to the consultants. It's true. Now they have a department in big multinational companies which is called the shopper marketing executive, that he goes shop to shop and finds out, not sales, to see how the consumers are buying. He's done observation study, interviews them regularly to find out what's going on in the marketing at that shop level. Because so far the feedback was on salesperson, which is always unclear, exaggerated, not true. So they are not doing first hand themselves. The Cadbury is doing this immensely. Then they have another local area marketing team, broken by zones. Then they have media management of all media. They have different people working in their own organization. So I think today in the culture, the buzzword has become innovation. And this is true across the world. And it has become so critical, innovation, because technology anyone can access. The fact is how they translate that technology. I give an example of the fight that goes on between Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Now Mercedes-Benz is taking out a model, I learned this in New York in 2015, I think. It has a sensor on the steering. So when the driver sits there, automatically a razor takes his breath. It gets measured of the alcohol content, and the alcohol content is beyond permissible, the car doesn't start. So it's a car and the technology to stop drunken driving. This technology, so it's innovation, technological breakthrough Mercedes is going to have. So every time competition is getting fierce, they are breaking grounds through new innovations. And that battle is almost daily. It's amazing. If you look at 2012 model and you look at 2013, say Volkswagen, they're totally different. Because today people want change. They want to change model. They will say, no, this was there last year. So every year they want a new thing. So the fight in the car market is that every year you bring out a new, not just change upholstery and color will do. They want features to change. So it's a huge thing that the whole trip now is to keep this innovation. With the result that one of the things that with the first company that started that was Singapore Airlines. Many years ago, went to handle their business. I know that Dr. Cheong, who was the chairman founder, he had created, he had sent 4 Chinese Singaporeans to Harvard Business School for doing a management course. And when they came back, their only job was to think of the future. He said, you will have no other responsibility, no other accountability. You just have to say where the aviation industry is going and come up with ideas. Once in 2 years, they used to have a worldwide conference in Singapore where advertising agency heads were also invited. So I was invited to attend there. In 1992, he had already started this 2 years. So 1992, they were given 15-minute slot to make a presentation in the end. And they made a presentation in 1992 of flatbeds. So all the salespeople were thumping the table, complaining, you idiots, one bed will take away 4 seats. Are they going to pay 4 times more for a bed that you're asking us to do this stupid thing? So they got very disappointed. Cheong said, keep working on it. How did they come to that idea? He had given them a blank check. You want to learn where the industry is going, you can go anywhere. So they went to Seattle, the Boeing company. They managed to get there. They were sniffing around about the R&D and all of that, and they found the long-haul planes were coming. That they would go from Japan, Tokyo to New York non-stop. So that's what gave them the idea that people who go overnight, they end up start meeting from the airport itself. So that in India, so the bed was, they were the first airline to introduce beds in the industry. So therefore today, after 10 years, most companies have created innovation group in the United States. Each company has an innovation group. Their only job is to think of new ideas. I think the whole sense of brands and what brands stand for is completely changed. And therefore, obviously, the changes have affected marketing and media. Today, brand is not a product, brand is an experience, which is the reason why all the malls and all the things that shops are doing, all the campaigns they are doing, events they are doing, is all to create an experience. And the brand experience has to have entertainment, because I just told you the young profile. They want fun, they want designs, they want all that. So today the whole game in marketing has changed. It's not brand, but it is experience and entertainment. And lots of events companies are thriving again. Is because now they all have to create an experience like design people. The experience they are creating in the store itself, the design of the store. So you walk into a store, you feel certain kind of experience. So it's not about just doing events or anything else. So good design adds value faster than it costs. And I cannot tell you, one of the industries that is really racing fast is car, and the second one is the hotel industry. It has become so competitive that you cannot imagine how they're designing hotels today. Outstanding. And I remember that when Meridian was doing revamping of all their brands, they went to a designer saying, can you help? So he said, I'm a designer, I'm not an architect. He said, no, we don't want architects, we want designers. And he did research on his own. And so it's a fabulous case study. He did a research on his own. He found that the closest to emotion in the human brain is the smell. not the taste, not the sight, nothing. It's the smell. The smell immediately evokes. So he had asked the Meridian people that all the, you had customers of thousands of customers, send them an email and saying what perfume they like. So they got a list of that. They made a short list of what the most wanted. Each floor has a different perfume. So when somebody sends an email X and wanting a room, they know that he smells, so they'll put him on the floor which has that smell, so that he carries that experience right from the room. When they have now part of the designing, the architect decided, which never happens anywhere in the world, that the coffee shop is on the 3rd floor or 14th floor. It's always on the ground floor. So when he suggested reason for view, etc., that it should be coffee shop is where people come to relax, it should be here. So he said, how do you make them come? So what he did is, moment you go beyond a floor, in the lift you get the coffee smell. So you know you're approaching the coffee thing and get off. So the fact is that the innovation is going on in all aspects. It's completely amazing. The market research has moved forward, I'm glad to say, from in the last couple of years. Otherwise it ought to be 10 people group discussion, 3 groups in one town, and then a whole 10-page report is written, and everything that you have written is all wrong because this has nothing to do with. But today I think they're getting more sophisticated, taking advantage of technology, and many issues have been tackled, I think, have been continuing to happen. From questionnaire-based interrogation, usage, etc. Now they have gone into a lot of neural responses measurements, which they do through, they show something and they have these plugs and they see the brain like the heart, and they can tell you whether he's liking it or he doesn't like it, etc. So it's more not intuitive research, but more something that is measurable to response. So when they bring new product or new smell or new thing, they test it out this way so that they are sure that the thing will work. Because it's very expensive to create products today in technology terms. And that's why they have creative super groups whose job in creative, in strategy. Before, strategy had nothing to do with creative. Creative people had nothing to do with strategy, right? They used to think. But today, the person who's the strategist has to be creative. So that the idea is born in the idea of creativity itself, rather than let's do this strategy. So I think this is a great leap forward for the business. So I think it has become more robust, in my opinion. Now, agency business is going through a little more turmoil than marketing. I think many things have happened which has a lot of challenges ahead. Now, there's a huge difference I was just mentioning between the traditional planner who would just sit there and take the brief, get some ideas of strategy and developing, and pass it on to creative to think. But the new age planner is totally different. Today, I give you an example. Ogilvy's the strategic planner, Kamath, he is actually now made vice chairman of the company, Ogilvy. It was unimaginable in an advertising agency, the account planner, to be anywhere near executive job. So today he has become vice chairman because he is not only analyzing the consumer mind through technology that research has developed, but also interpreting that to suit what the consumer will respond to. So in fact, he's already built a bridge into giving creative concepts. I think that's a great step that has happened. And I met a couple of them in Conrad. I go there once a quarter. I think they've done, these guys are superlative, the new planners that they have. They're doing a great job. Then what happens is, within this group, it is further broken down by, there's a market planner. So Kamath heads the whole department, but there are different specialists within that. So it is far more complicated than it was before. So they have a market planner who looks after market analysis, development, growth of market, etc. Back to the communication planner. Then you have digital planner. It's a big way now that they have to, and a contact planner, that is a customer relationship management. So these are all part of one group which looks after all this. So I think there was a time when TV was the king. One Mahabharata spot reached everybody. Now it's changing. It's completely changing. It's gone beyond what we had used to in the conventional method. It's all gone. And today, because of the change in the mind of the consumer itself, they have to think of innovative ways of doing things. Even smallest thing they have to do, they have to think of innovative. If they are doing a shelf for watches, they cannot do routine shelf for. They have to do it. So every time, if you look at the ones that are done very well, is Titan. Every time there are new watches, they design the display in such a fashion that it looks very creative. And just look at this. So every single thing that you find is design oriented and changes all the time. We are becoming more visual. So the question is, there is a new age consumer who behaves very differently. Competition is fierce. Media space is expanding in different ways. So what does the advertising agency need to do to keep pace with change on all fronts? In 15 years ago, they used to use this famous word called, we have an integrated agency, which means we have public relations, we have this, we have that. Now that is dead. What they need is something more. They need a strategist that I explained to you. They need a creative team. They need a media team. They need an influencing marketing thing. They need your technology thing. They need social media, and they need. So what has happened is that the communication with the agency has to do, if it is a full service agency, all of this has to be done. Otherwise what happens is, which is already happening, that all these things will go away to the specialist, and what will be left is the output these people give. And therefore, it can become I hate to say that, obsolete business. If they don't cope with this change, which requires a holistic view of the way the client wants solutions to his problems. He's not looking for a campaign, he's looking for a solution today, which is the reason why some agencies have got exquisite planners, because they realize that that business won't last long unless they're able to think client problem, client solution. It's not about an ad. It's not about, look at the power of social media. And I admit, and I hate to say that, I think no agency has tackled that at all. They don't know how to tackle the social media. Because social media is the most powerful medium over everything else, because it's like what we say, the most important thing in advertising, word of mouth. That's what social media is doing. It's word of mouth. So one man, it is going to another man, and suddenly you'll find 1 lakh, 2 lakhs hits. I don't think agencies have understood how to deal with it. So it's all about a new language. So I think it's time that a fresh structure is looked at, in my opinion. Thank you.
That was great. Any questions?
You can ask your questions. I'll find somebody who will be able to answer that. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir. That was a great insight. It was a overall and whole analytical thing of how we had to go. And I think we're going to take a lot to home today and work on it. And again, I thank you on behalf of Art Club of Madras.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So call me.
Again, thank our sponsors, The Hindu. Thank you, everybody. You have to connect.
Huh? You're on? Yes, yes, of course. Can you take this? based on your experience. Thank you. What a run through. 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 Thank you. What a run Thank you. What a run through.